24 hours after a tense conflict at the border, we look at how it started and why Border Patrol decided to shoot tear gas into Mexico.
Due to the current situation, the San Ysidro port of entry is now closed.
The military was involved in yesterday's shutdown of the San Ysidro crossing, how their border mission is expanding, and conditions are deteriorating. Volunteers talk with KPBS about the growing health risk for asylum seekers in Tijuana.
Touchdown confirmed.
The 6-month journey is over. Now the work on Mars begins. NASA celebrates the arrival of its InSight lander. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Mexico is pledging to beef up its security. This comes one day after migrants in Tijuana rushed the border. Mexican officials say anyone who tries to violently enter the U.S. will be deported. KPBS border reporter Jean Guerrero says the situation may intensify.
Tijuana's population of homeless migrants has surged to unprecedented heights, with nearly 6,000 spilling out of a municipal sports complex turned shelter, and many sleeping on the streets. To raise awareness of their plight, migrants on Sunday marched to the border, but what began as a peaceful protest quickly devolved into chaos.
They're just shooting more tear gas. They just opened fire with rubber bullets.
A group of the migrants rushed the border, and in turn, U.S. agents fired tear gas into Mexico. A few people were hospitalized, and dozens were arrested. After the clash, migrants like Billy Noe Martinez angrily passed around spent tear gas canisters fired into the crowd by U.S. authorities. He says the migrants never wanted violence.
No queremos violencia.
We come in peace. We don't want violence. We want justice.
One woman, Jaime Flores, said she's now planning to go back to Honduras because she was scared by what happened. She says she never thought it would be so hard to get into the U.S.
The crossing is too difficult. I'm not going to risk my children's lives.
The clash also led to a more than 5-hour closure of the San Ysidro port of entry, which is the busiest land crossing in the U.S. Every day, tens of thousands of people cross the border to shop, work, and go to school. Cindy Vickers, an American expat living in Tijuana, had crossed the border Sunday to shop in San Diego. She got stuck trying to head back into Mexico.
You know, it's just ridiculous. There's people in Mexico that went down for the day. They go out to the playas, you know, and they want to come home, and now they're trapped there, and vice versa.
It's unclear whether there will be more port closures. But what is clear, Tijuana is running out of spaces for the migrants. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
Today at the White House, President Trump was asked about the use of tear gas at the border. He insisted it was necessary to keep the group from entering the U.S.
They had to use because they were being rushed by some very tough people, and they used tear gas. And here's the bottom line. Nobody's coming into our country unless they come in legally.
The use of tear gas at the border is uncommon. Today, many weighed in on whether or not it was the right thing to do and if it was legal. KPBS reporter Priya Sridhar has more.
Ebony, I spoke with Eileen Durst from Thomas Jefferson School of Law, who told me that it is legal to shoot tear gas over the border and that it's really up to the discretion of those federal agents if they feel that they're being threatened.
It would have to be a threat of violence to be able to use, to lawfully use something like tear gas. It's one thing for them to put up batons or try to put up an additional barrier, which they've already done, but to actually use tear gas, at least to my understanding, it has to be to prevent violence or a serious disturbance of the peace.
Now, earlier today, Chief Border Patrol Agent Rodney Scott told CNN why CBP felt it was necessary to use tear gas.
The group immediately started throwing rocks and debris at our agents, taunting the agents. Once our agents were assaulted, and the numbers started growing. We had 2 or 3 agents at a time initially facing hundreds of people at a time. They deployed tear gas to protect themselves and to protect the border.
CBP Commissioner Kevin Michalinen told the Associated Press that 69 migrants were arrested on the California side of the border after crossing illegally. He said the Border Patrol's use of force policy allows agents to use tear gas and other non-lethal methods, but that the incident would be reviewed. Priya Sridhar, KPBS News.
The military response to the migrant caravan is shifting to San Diego. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh says more troops arrived over the weekend.
About 300 troops, mostly Army MPs, shifted to San Diego over the weekend. Troops can be seen in a video put out by Customs and Border Protection, which showed military police in full riot gear with gas masks and shields standing behind lines of Border Patrol agents as they shut down the San Ysidro port of entry on Sunday. Over the weekend, President Trump told reporters that he gave troops along the border the authority to use lethal force. A statement put out by U.S. Northern Command says that MPs were unarmed and did not have direct contact with migrants during the tumultuous weekend when Border Patrol agents used tear gas. Photos were released of troops practicing riot techniques in San Diego before being deployed to the border. Their mission was to back up Border Patrol, who can be seen in front of the MPs as they shut down the port of entry. The troops were moved from Texas and Arizona. There are now 1,800 active duty troops in California. Overall, the number of troops involved in the border operation has dropped from 5,900 down to 5,600. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
Migrant advocates say conditions are worsening for thousands of Central Americans staying at a temporary shelter in Tijuana. And KPBS reporter Susan Murphy tells us what some San Diegans are doing to help.
Clothes, winter clothes, blankets, and some toys. And we're going to go deliver to the big shelter, the temporary shelter that they are staying at.
Border Angels Tijuana director Hugo Castro loads up his van full of donations in San Diego every day to take to the nearly 6,000 migrants who have arrived to his home city. He says shelter conditions are deteriorating.
People are not able to shower. It's hard to get drinking water. Sometimes they cannot leave the place. The place is surrounded by police officers.
He says 3,000 people share 8 portable toilets at the largest shelter, and sicknesses are evolving.
A large number of the population is going through health issues, such as respiratory problems. Some of them have kind of a skin infection, rash.
Castro is helping to lead an effort to collect clothes, blankets, and toiletries to give to the migrants. He's also trying to acquire large industrial tents to protect people from heavy rains forecast to arrive later this week.
To be able to cover the rest of the migrants who are living just covering by blankets.
He says donations can be brought to the San Diego Border Angels office located at 2258 Island Avenue near downtown. Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
PBS NewsHour will have more on the conflict at the border. It airs at 7 right here on KPBS. Activists announced a lawsuit today over the death of a transgender asylum seeker from Honduras. KPBS reporter Andrew Bowen says she died while in ICE custody.
The Transgender Law Center announced the legal action at a press conference today. Roxana Hernandez entered the U.S. at San Ysidro in May. She was seeking asylum and was eventually transferred to a detention center in New Mexico. That's where she died, reportedly of dehydration. Isa Noyola is deputy director of the Transgender Law Center. She read a statement from Hernandez's sisters, who said she was fleeing discrimination.
For us, her closest family, it's been extremely painful to deal with. She left with dreams of opening a beauty salon and hopes of helping us out. Now all we have left with us is the hope that we can see justice for her, justice for Roxana.
The group says an independent autopsy report shows Hernandez suffered abuse in custody. It's filing a wrongful death claim against New Mexico and plans to file a parallel lawsuit against ICE before the end of the year. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
The San Ysidro School District will pay 6 figures to settle a wrongful termination case. As iNews Source reporter Megan Wood tells us, this comes as the district tries to clean up its troubled past.
11 days after the San Ysidro School Board honored Danielle Clark for her dedication, she was let go. She had been the special education director for less than 5 months. Clark sued for wrongful termination, and a judge ruled in her favor. The district has released few details about the $107,000 settlement the school board okayed this month. Clark says she hasn't received the payment and expected at least $150,000. Superintendent Gina Potter said in a statement to iNews Source, quote, "The district's new leadership is diligently working to close past issues in a concerted effort to bring stability and success to our students." Potter is the district's 9th superintendent in 5 years. A state audit this year found a previous superintendent and his deputy were overpaid about $324,000. A second state audit is underway. For KPBS, I'm iNews Source reporter Megan Wood.
iNews Source is an independently funded nonprofit media partner of KPBS. Authorities are still processing the damage of California's deadliest, most destructive wildfire. Firefighters fully contained the Camp Fire over the weekend. 85 people were killed. Nearly 250 people are missing, but that number has dropped significantly in recent days. The Camp Fire destroyed thousands of homes and other buildings, mostly in the town of Paradise near Chico. Rain in the area helped firefighters reach 100% containment by Sunday. Last week's government report on climate change predicted more destructive wildfires. Capitol Public Radio's Sammy Keola looks at the role of weather in these disasters.
Fire officials made one thing clear as they fought the Camp wildfire. Conditions were not good.
Fire weather conditions are extreme. Critical dryness of our vegetation.
You combine that with the winds and the low humidities, and it's off.
And we are seeing it from literally border to border.
But this is about more than extreme weather. Experts like Kate Wilkin with the University of California are starting to link these increasingly nasty fire seasons to climate change.
We have 2 different pulses or triggers for what's changing. One is we're having less rainfall, and secondly, the warmer temperatures means that more of the rain is going directly into the sky rather than going into the ground and being used by plants.
That's what causes the dry and highly flammable vegetation. Then there's the blustery winds, pretty typical for fall. But those gusts don't usually cruise in until after there's been some rain. Not the case anymore.
So if we'd had many inches of rain during the month of October, this fire, despite its high winds, may not have occurred.
Scientists say climate change isn't going away, so the next step for California should be making the land more resilient to future fires. That might mean thinning out forests or rethinking where we build structures. In Sacramento, I'm Sammy Keola.
I hope you enjoyed your weekend. The weather today, not bad. In fact, we are about 10 degrees above average today with plenty of sunshine. So lots of outdoor activities to enjoy. Taking a look at the bigger picture, we do have a system that's coming in off the Pacific, and that's going to bring some rain to northern California, even a touch of snow in the mountains. Not reaching us, but we will see some rain in San Diego by Thursday as a second system comes in off the coast. For tonight, it is clear across the board. Oceanside at 38 degrees for that low. Chula Vista at 51 and Mount Laguna right around 37 degrees. In the city, in the metro, I should say, 54 degrees for that low temperature with mainly clear skies. So tomorrow we're still pretty dry, maybe a bit of a breeze out there, but look to the north. That rain, that snow, we're going to see more of that. It's going to be creeping down to the south. Oceanside tomorrow, nice and sunny, 73 degrees. San Diego at 73 and sunny. Borrego Springs around 77, and Ramona in those mid-70s with plenty of sunshine to enjoy. Along the coast here, we stay dry through Wednesday, and then it becomes breezy with rain across the coast. 66 degrees for the high temperature. That's closer to average. It's going to be drier for the weekend, but we stay in those mid-60s with extra clouds at times. Dry inland through Wednesday. And then again, some afternoon rain working its way in here. 64 for the high temperature on Thursday, so a cooler pattern, and will remain in those mid-60s the rest of that week. In the mountains, it's going to stay dry, but it will be cooler and cloudier on Thursday with temperatures dropping down to the 40s. And it's going to remain in the 40s now in the mountains through Saturday with some sunshine, but certainly chilly with those lows. They'll be in the 30s. And in the deserts, we're going to see some sunshine through Wednesday. A little bit of rain by the afternoon, temperatures dropping by about 10 degrees. It's going to be drier and sunnier for Friday and Saturday, but those temperatures will remain in those upper 60s for the highs. Back to you.
NASA is celebrating its latest successful arrival on Mars. Scientists at the Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena cheered once the InSight lander signaled everything went according to plan. The spacecraft is equipped with technology that will allow it to dig deep below the surface. The work will help scientists study how planets formed in our solar system. Astronaut Scott Kelly is sharing what it's like to spend a year in space. He's written 2 books about his experience, and now he's sharing some of his photos from his mission. Kelly recently talked with PBS SoCal about his work and how reading a book changed his life.
The Earth's a pretty good subject to have if you're an amateur photographer or if you desire to be one. And I like taking pictures and having an artistic perspective on them. So I think I did certain things a little bit different than other astronauts have in the past. At least I took a lot more of them, and I don't know, for lack of a better term, marketed them well because I got a lot of attention. But yeah, I tried to take pictures of that. I wanted someone to say, you know, I'd like to hang this on my wall versus, you know, this is exactly what that spot on Earth looked like. It was more about the aesthetic value for me.
This Nikon D4X is one of several cameras that we have on board. So the photography that you see is handheld photography. We have wide-angle lenses. We also have very big lenses. We've got several of these as well. And it's through this lens. This is an 800-millimeter lens.
Oh, there's cameras, and we get a lot of training. And I've been taking pictures in space since 1999. I have always had a little bit of an artistic eye for things, and yeah, so clearly lighting is very important, and color. So clearly I thought about that kind of stuff, yeah. A year is a long time. It's a long time to be in space. In addition to just finished my main memoir book, which is titled Endurance, A Year in Space, A Lifetime of Discovery. I've also written a kid's book that comes out on the same day. And now I've just started working on the photo book. I got dressed up in a gorilla suit and hid in a big bag and like chased one of my crew members around the space station. You know, when you have a brother that is also a previous astronaut, you figure out ways to get gorilla suits on the space station. You know, for the rest of my life, if I'm ever trying to get the attention of some like group of kids to talk about the importance of science and math, engineering, all I have to do is show them the Space Gorilla video and I got their attention.
But this study with my brother and I is really important right now because it will help us get to Mars someday.
I was inspired by a book, actually. It's called The Right Stuff. I read when I was 18. And I was a underperforming student at the time. My whole previous 14 years. I guess this is my first year of college. I've never been able to do well in school or pay attention until I read The Right Stuff by Tom Wolfe and became like a plan of action. And, to do the things those guys did, for me, required that I be a better student. So I did. It just looked cool on the shelf. It was red, white, and blue and had this title that showed like motion in a very positive direction. Just picked it up in the college bookstore. I went in there to buy gum or something. Not a book, but I just looked through it and spent my gum money on a book and read it over the next 3 days. And here we are.
Judy Woodruff tonight on the NewsHour. General Motors will shutter production at 5 plants and lay off as many as 14,000 employees. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Retailers in the U.S. are expecting this to be the biggest Cyber Monday yet. Companies big and small are offering discounts to online shoppers. Last year, Amazon reported selling 83 million items at a pace of nearly 1,000 per second. Industry experts say online shopping is expected to rise 17% on Cyber Monday compared to last year. Robots are replacing people as cashiers, meal delivery drivers, and bellhops. And technology has already replaced most jobs at the New York Stock Exchange. But Marketplace's David Brancaccio has this report on why Wall Street still needs humans.
Let me take you back to the year 2000, when there were over 5,000 floor traders at the New York Stock Exchange. Now there are fewer than 400.
I always wonder why there are people in floor of New York Stock Exchange now that we have computers and network for doing all sorts of trades.
People have been trading on the New York Stock Exchange since 1792. Now, some things have not changed, but so much else has. Wall Street employment has always ebbed and flowed through the booms and through the busts. But I gotta say, today's different. The market is booming, but the jobs at the New York Stock Exchange are declining. And this is because technology has taken over Wall Street. Now, what this means is that the humans who are working on the floor need to make it worth the extra expense for their clients.
At the end of the day, there's a certain confidence and integrity by having a human being on the other end of your money.
See, the assertion is that in some cases, there's a subtlety to matching buyers and sellers that can be almost artisanal, something that takes human finesse to read the room. And Peter Tuchman believes that subtlety is important in making the overall system safer.
That we have a system within the new technology where it's like flying a plane, okay?
Let's say this plane represents the New York Stock Exchange. Autopilot is on, so the computer is doing all of the work. But when it hits bad weather, like when stocks begin to plummet drastically, autopilot doesn't cut it. That's when the pilot needs to take over the wheel and control the plane so it travels through the storm safely, something that algorithms can't always accomplish. But there is another reason there are humans. They look interesting on TV. So we got stage set, cameras, applause. This tradition draws attention, which can generate buzz on a newly launched stock. And buzz can mean money.
The IPO of Snap up on the second day of trading, and now shareholders hoping the amazing debut doesn't vanish.
Still, with the number of floor traders now in the hundreds instead of the thousands, are people still looking to get into this kind of work? Lauren Simmons is a floor trader for Rosenblatt Securities. She's not just the youngest person here, she's the only woman trading on the floor full time.
So I'm an equity trader. I'm out on the floor, yelling in my high heels, running. It's a lot of fun.
Here's how it works. Traders and brokers carry out the buying and selling for a client or an investment company while acting as the customer's eyes and ears on the floor. Other humans at the New York Stock Exchange work for banks that act as what's called market makers. They also play the role of auctioneer. They can help set the buying and selling prices for stocks. These people, accent on the people, work hard to keep things orderly. So, Lauren, are you worried that machines are going to take your job, that they'll make a robot of you?
No. A machine can't talk to a market maker who is an actual person here on the trading floor.
Because you're on the lookout for something weird, too. Like, in other words, if you notice a trade makes no sense, you'll speak up.
Right. And again, we communicate that to the market makers that are here on the floor. So that's not something that an algorithm can do.
Some customers are willing to pay for what the exchange believes is upgraded, more personal service. All right, so do you need human traders on the floor of the NYSE? No, not technically. But it's remained one of the world's biggest exchanges because customers seem to like the personal touch. And ringing a bell in an empty room is not going to impress a lot of people.
This is part of the Marketplace series called I've Always Wondered. You can see more questions and answers about why the economy works the way it does at marketplace.org. Now, here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, Universal Preschool in California, how Governor-elect Gavin Newsom is promising a big change to public education when he takes office. And on Midday Edition, we'll have a California Dream Report on senior fraud and scams that are targeting older homeowners. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.